Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of the day it is that you're listening to this. My name is Yvette Wanzuu, and welcome back to the Walking with Wanzuu podcast. How are you? How have you been? Has life been kind to you? It's been treating you good? Tough times? I'm sending you love and hugs nonetheless. Welcome back to the podcast. Enjoy listening. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Wanzuu. I am your host for the Walking with Wanzuu podcast, and welcome back. How are you? How have you been? It is July, guys. We are smack in the middle of Kenyan winter. I'll never get tired of saying that. And we are struggling. Tell me why the Kenyan winter chose a time when I am just transitioning out of a situation. When I tell you that I am fighting for my life, you best believe that I am. Not there's nothing that can quench this cold, because let me tell you, I have tried everything. I have been there with my water bottle. I have been drinking my mint tea religiously. I have been trying anything and everything to try and keep warm. Is this me every morning trying to figure out the warmest coat or jacket that I have? I am fighting for my life, guys. And honestly, for the last couple of days, we're just coming out of the weekend. So Sunday was nice and warm. Monday did not disappoint. Today is Tuesday, and the sun came up just as promised, and I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier. Honestly, the cold weather is just not for me. It's giving struggle. It's giving I'm struggling with my wardrobe. It's giving everything that pertains to struggle. So when I see the sun, guys, I just know that God is showing me that there's a rainbow. There's a silver lining in every struggle. First of all, I'm just transitioning out of a situation. So my spirit has been quite low. My mood has been all over the place. We all know what it's like when you've been with a person and you're used to getting morning texts, like you're used to living your life around that your significant other, and then you end things, right? So transitioning out of that situation has been very difficult for me. However, I'm just getting to that phase where I'm feeling like, for instance, I woke up today morning and I could really tell from the way I was struggling to just do things, that I was really, I wasn't in the best mind space. And it's not enough to help that Auntie Flo is visiting. So now you have to deal with Nairobi winter. You have to deal with the fact that you're just transitioning out of a breakup, and then your period is also doing the most. I mean, does it get any worse than that? Anyway, it could be. So I am grateful regardless. And I was in the bathroom at my workplace, and I just remember thinking, I feel a sense of relief, and I can't quite explain it. I just felt a sense of relief. Perhaps that's God relieving me from all the heaviness I've been feeling for the last couple of days, or even for the last couple of weeks. Because I feel like when you transition, when you're coming into, by the time a relationship is coming to a point where you're ending things, it's like at the back of your mind, you already ended things a while back. And then now it's just the clarifying and saying, you know what, I don't think this is going to happen. I don't want to proceed with whatever interaction we have. And then now moving on from that. Once you voice it and once you actualize it, then now there's no going back from that. And of course, there were days that I was feeling low. There were days that I was just feeling like I can't go on. There are days that I was feeling like I want to backtrack on my word. But then, today morning when I was in the bathroom, I just felt a sense of relief, and I don't know where that came from. Perhaps I was, and I'll talk about this some more in another episode, guys. Like, I felt like towards the end of my relationship, I was really working, because I'm those people that I never give up on things. And so I was in a constant state of repair, like trying to figure out, so what is it that's going wrong? How can I fix it? How can I repair? How can I just cover with love? Because I feel like the good book says love covers a multitude of sin. And so for me, it's always extend grace, show love, try and give as much understanding as you can. And I did my best, but I'm just at a point where I'm feeling an overwhelming sense of relief and release. And what I'm glad about the entire thing is, sometimes when you're going through it, you can really show yourself. You can really show your nyash. Because when the pettiness in you is called out, sometimes you can end up doing things that you necessarily won't be proud of. And I'm just glad that for the first time in a very long time, I'm coming out of a situation saying, okay, it was what it was good while it lasted, but now let's move on, let's see what God has for me. So I'm glad that I'm getting to a point where I feel like I'm sighing a sigh of relief, and it's like, Okay, then we're healing, we're settling. So next, what does God have in store for me? So that's the space that I have been in, guys. Despite everything that's been going on in my heart and my head, I'm constantly grateful. I feel like times are hard. Everybody's complaining about the economy and how money is hard to come by. Some people are losing jobs, It's generally, it could seem like it's very tough times, but I'm grateful for small mercies. I'm grateful for a roof over my head. I'm grateful for family that loves me. I'm grateful for my support system, my friends. I'm grateful for my baby girl, my daughter, because she's my entire world. I'm grateful for my parents. I'm grateful for my mom, excuse me. And I'm grateful that after a week of struggle, God has allowed us to experience some sun. And it's not that sun that's coming with, a bit of maringo and nini. The sun is shining the way it should. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for small mercies. I could go on and on about how my week has been and the mind space that I have been in, but that was just to tell you in short. Now, in short is me rambling on here for 5 minutes. Anyway, I had to catch you up, yo. I had to catch you up. We all know that this is an authentic space, and I never want to come on here and put up a front. So you can best believe that if I need to get something off my chest or I need to share with you where I'm at or the mind space that I'm in, I'll do it, because this is what we're all about, creating a nice, safe space where we can all talk and share and learn from each other's experiences. Now, today I want us to talk about something, because guys, we are healing. Kama kuna kitu tutafanya hii mwaka ni kupona, tutapona. Please, we are healing. We are healing. I want us to talk about something that we do not address enough as adults, and that is trauma. Now, whether it's clear to you or not, up to this particular point, a huge part of how we move as adults, the values that we have, how we communicate with others, how we grasp things, our entire makeup, who we are, is a lot of the times based on what we have experienced in our childhood. That a lot of the times tends to become the makeup of who you are as a person. And so childhood experiences tend to mold and shape who you are as an adult, and then moving forward it starts to affect you whether or not you're aware of it. Now that's your assignment. That's your assignment. So one of the things that really helps me know how it is that I act in certain ways, why I do certain things that I do, who it is that I am, why I hold certain values dear, why I respond to certain things in a particular way, was therapy. One thing about therapy, if you go into therapy, whether you're going through it, what took me to therapy was postpartum depression. I was really going through it. I was in a dark space. I was spiraling. I was not feeling like myself. I wanted to die. And I just said, you know what? Perhaps I need to talk to someone. And so that's the one time I started therapy. I think my daughter was like 2.5 years, 3 years old. And I remember my counselor really trying to say, okay, let's go back. Let's look at what was your childhood like. We went all the way into preschool, came into primary school, what my upbringing was like, what life was like, just being with me and my mom, what our family dynamic was like. And slowly by slowly, as we began to unpack all that, then I started to see certain events that would lead me to have certain traits and certain attributes. Like a lot of what happened in my childhood has built up to who I am and how it is that I respond to certain things today and even to date. We unpacked a lot, and recent events have prompted me to want to discuss and just to be able to unpack matters that surround trauma. Now, trauma is something that I feel like it's a word that's bounced off a lot nowadays. The words that people are really bouncing off in the internet. Things like a narcissist, trauma, what is it, red flags. Just words like the words that when you go into certain platforms or when you hear people having a conversation about, you'll not miss them. You'll not miss to catch them in. You won't miss catching people using them. And so, what is trauma? Let's just start from there. Let's define the word trauma. Trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event. Trauma can also be defined as a psychic or behavioral state resulting from severe mental or emotional stress or physical injury. Now that is trauma. So trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event. There's no way something good can make you feel like you're traumatized. Okay, we always know, and or even use the word "I feel traumatized" or "that was traumatic" when you've come through or when you've undergone an unpleasant experience. That is what usually gives birth to trauma. Now, what are some of those unpleasant experiences? It could be an accident, and in this case, it could be an accident maybe in the workplace. Maybe an occupational hazard has led you to get, to get an accident. It could be a natural disaster. We're talking tornadoes, we're talking earthquakes, stuff like that. It could be abuse, which is quite unfortunate. It could be emotional abuse, it could be physical abuse, it could be domestic violence, it could be rape, it could be defilement. It could also be the sudden death of a loved one. That could also be a very traumatic experience. It could also result from hospitalization. So there are a number of unpleasant experiences that we can go through that can make us end up having a traumatic experience. And so now, I want us to talk about the different types of trauma that are there. I'm going to define three. The first one is acute trauma, the second one is chronic trauma, and the third one is complex trauma. Now, what is acute trauma? Acute trauma is trauma that you get from a single accident. Like it could be a one time thing. Let's say, for example, you get an accident, right? Like a road accident, which is unfortunate. Maybe it could be due to reckless driving, it could be due to a number of things. That is an example of acute trauma. The second type of trauma, which I had mentioned earlier, is chronic trauma, which is repeated and prolonged trauma. And a good example of this one could be domestic violence. Now, we all know I personally come from a family where we have unfortunately experienced a number of incidences of domestic violence. And luckily, my mom and some of her siblings have worked in the field of, in the NGO world where they've tried to be huge advocates of women, just fighting domestic violence and dealing with it as a whole, as a society, as a family, and even as a country. And so domestic violence, you'll find that when it starts, it's like it builds up to small, small things. It's today your partner is shouting at you, tomorrow they push you, the next day they smack you hard in the face, the next day they punch you, the next day they kick you, and then before you know it, it's a full-blown war. Now you're just being hit left, right, and center, which is quite unfortunate. And that usually tends to recur a number of times over time. So, domestic violence is an example of chronic trauma, which is as a result of or repeated or prolonged experience, which is necessarily not a good one. Um, and then the last trauma that I want to talk about is complex trauma. That is exposure to varied and multiple traumatic events, often an what is it called? Often an invasive and or often invasive or interpersonal in nature. That's what complex trauma is. Now let's move on forward. What are some of the things that when you look at, you're just like, it's giving I'm not okay. It's giving this person has undergone a traumatic experience. Now you'll be shocked to know, and I'll try and get the statistics on this, that a lot of us guys, especially us adults, and even children, unfortunately, and some young teens, are walking around as like as shells of ourselves because we are all nursing so much trauma. And guys, we live in an age where people are so expressive. And sometimes some of the things that people do, you just left to think, what is wrong with you? And the truth is, a lot of us are nursing so much trauma that we don't even know how to live with ourselves, let alone other people. So there are some of the signs that you can be on the lookout for, either for yourself, for your loved one, or for someone that you know that can help you know that this person is undergoing some kind of trauma. The first thing is this person is easily startled. Now, this you can tell from people who undergo things like abuse, domestic violence, like trauma where it involves some kind of bullying or harassment. Then you notice that the other party is easily startled. Another thing that could make people easily startled is when you've undergone trauma that involves maybe you were in an area where there was a shooting, maybe there was a robbery, like a burglary, maybe it was an accident. So you'll find such people when there's like a loud bang or when there's some kind of aggression, then they're easily startled. Things like that. Then there's always the person is always on guard for danger. So if this person is constantly just on the lookout for, hey, we are not okay, we need to make sure we're okay. Can we look around us? Can we make sure we're safe? That's a huge sign that this person is undergoing trauma. Another thing is self-destructive behavior, where this person is drinking too much, there's reckless driving, like the person is just involved in habits or behaviors that seem to lead to the fact that they want to self-destruct. So this person is definitely undergoing trauma. And as I'm ticking through this list, I want you to be very honest with yourself and see if there's some of these things that you personally feel like you're going through and you could need help for. The other thing is trouble sleeping. Now, this one I am definitely guilty of. If there are insomniacs in the room, let's just meet at the tent outside there. Let's have some tea and exchange notes on how we can just nurse ourselves back to sleep. I personally really struggle with sleep. Sometimes I have to medicate. There are times when I'll need to like listen to something and really, really self-soothe until I can put myself to sleep. And so lack of trouble sleeping, that's a sign of trauma. Another thing is trouble concentrating. When this person, it's okay. Sometimes your concentration can yo-yo and can be on and off. But if you're constantly struggling to concentrate, or you know this person is constantly struggling to concentrate, then there's definitely a problem there. Another thing is irritability. Where this one, it's in the morning. We're saying hi to you. You're mad already. Why? Even if you're not a morning person, why? Like this person, there's nothing you can do or say that could possibly please them. And they always find means and ways to just find fault in everything. If you know someone who's struggling with that, then that's a huge sign that this person is undergoing trauma. The other thing is guilt or shame. And this is something that I struggle with a lot as well because I know that I am my worst and biggest critic. So when something has happened that I don't know how to undo or I don't know how to look past, then I tend to shame myself or guilt myself a lot. And if you're struggling with the same thing, then that could be as a result of trauma or a traumatic experience. Now, guys, there are different ways in which people respond to trauma. I want to address the four trauma responses that there are. There's fight, there's flight, there's freeze, and there's fall. Let's start with the first one, which is fight. Now, fight is an act of self preservation. All these trauma responses are all acts of self preservation. It's like your body and you just trying to combine and come together to help keep you safe. That's self preservation. Fight is a trauma response in which you react towards conflict and anger with you react towards conflict with anger and aggression. So you see those people who when they're triggered, it's like it's war. Let's go. Me, I'm going to throw hands. I'm going to do this. That's some of the ways in which people respond to trauma. So that's through fight. The other thing is flight. So this particular person, when faced with a situation where um, there's danger or stuff like that, then they tend to run away from the perceived danger. They could, things like loud bangs and stuff like that. And people who tend to use the flight trauma response are people who lean towards perfectionism and like to avoid criticism. The other thing is freeze. And in this trauma response, it's in which your body gets to a state of hyperarousal. Well, English kizungu si mdomo changu, ilikuja na ndege na hata mpaka sahii hatujashika kupronounce maneno. So freeze is a trauma response in which your body, it's like it basically shuts down. It's like you're aware there's danger, but then you just freeze. It's like you shut down, and now your response is just to be able to the best way I think I can be able to explain this is, people who behave like an ostrich. What does an ostrich do when it's usually in danger? It buries its head in the sand. So it's like, I know it, I see it, I'm not about to deal with it now. And then you just bury your head and you're like, me, I'm frozen. I don't know how else to move from here. And then the last one is fawn. And this is where individuals try to avoid or minimize distress or danger by pleasing and appeasing the threat. This one, the perfect example for fun is people pleasing. Those people who have a hard time saying no. It's just like, this is conflict. It's giving drama. I don't want to deal with this. Okay, yes. Yes to everything that you want me to do right now. Yes, I'll do it. If you're a people pleaser, that could possibly be your trauma response. It's fun. Okay, so then now we are here, guys, and we just want to tumesema July tunapona. This is the month where we get it together and we try to identify what the issue is and how it is that we can heal from here. I don't know what your childhood was like as you listen to this. It could have been hard, man. Maybe you didn't have parents. Maybe you did have parents. Maybe you had limited resources. Maybe, unfortunately, you experienced abuse. Maybe you were bullied. You know, everybody has a part of their childhood that they honestly wish they could just erase, right? Or they wish they could just forget or move past. And then there are also experience leading up to adulthood, and even in adulting itself, there are certain experiences that you go through that can really be traumatic. I've had people who've been in relationships and been with partners, and the partners perhaps have cheated. Maybe the partners had this whole other life that they had no idea about, and now they have trauma. They're just like, every person who's just trying to hit on me, you're just out here to hurt me, you're out here to lie to me, and I don't want to deal with it. There's some people who have had parents we all know the black tax phenomena, and the people who've had parents who just use them for what they have and what it is that they can give them, and for, just for what it is that they are able to produce. Perhaps you're a very bright student and your parent only wants to be associated with you because of how smart you are and how good it makes them look. Trauma can come in so many ways, shapes, and forms, but honestly, you cannot live the rest of your life blaming whatever vices or whatever bad traits you have or tend to portray due to your trauma. I think the greatest gift you could ever give yourself is identify what it is that has hurt you, and then try and work through it and heal and come on the other side. Now, healing is gradual and it's different for everybody. Some people just need to find out what the issue is, deal with it in a month, in a year, in whatever timeline they find they're good, they're comfortable, they move on, they never look back from it. But the thing about trauma is sometimes when you're experiencing something really good or you're trying to move past it, it tends to creep up on you and sometimes can even cripple you. But when you're equipped, when you have the right tools, when you're self aware, when you're aware, then it changes the game for you. I think a lot of us are really walking around wounded and not knowing how to move around it. One thing that I really thank God for is we're in a generation where we're taking charge of ourselves. We're trying to see, okay, what's the issue? How can we fix it? How can we do better? How can we be better? How can we show up more so for ourselves and for the people that we're responsible for, especially as parents? How can we show up better and how can we do better from whatever it is that we experience as children in our upbringing? Us as parents now, how can we do better? How can we be better? If you've been in a relationship, how can you be better for your current partner or for your partner that's yet to come? How you yourself, once you've healed from all the issues that you're crippling with, it could be imposter syndrome, it could be you don't like how you look, it could be self-image, it could be self-esteem, it could be like so many different things creep on you. And if you look back to the root of it, it's usually just a trauma response to whatever it is that you've gone through or from an unpleasant experience. So how then do we move forward, guys? How do we heal? The first thing you need to do, if you get nothing from this episode, guys, is you need to go back and learn yourself. I need you to get yourself, gather yourself, and get into a meeting with yourself. Know yourself. Who are you? What do you like? What tickles your fancy? What do you genuinely don't like? What, like, who are you really? What's the one thing you feel you are put on this earth to do and that you can do effortlessly? And when you do it and you go to sleep at night, you're just like, wow, I'm really I'm so happy I'm existing because I'm really doing something in this world. Who are you really? So know yourself and then now share that person and share yourself with the rest of us. Another thing is to process past pain. I don't know, like I said before, I don't know what trauma you're fighting through. I don't know what it is that you're trying to come out of. But when you try and come out on the other side, please try and process your pain. Go through the emotions. If you need to cry, if you need to relieve it, if you need to feel it, if you need closure, if you need to ask why, just go through the process and process whatever past pain you have. The other thing that we will sing endlessly on here is please explore therapy. Guys, please explore therapy. If you look at a podcast episode I did, I think it was 2 or 3 episodes back, I shared some of the resources that we have in this country, Kenya, because I know we have international listeners. Ow! Yes, that you can, some of the resources that you can be able to get therapy from, most of them are free. They're literally just a phone call away. Talk to someone. You'll be amazed how awesome it is to be able to talk to a stranger about your issues, because this is someone who doesn't know you and they're not biased and they'll give you an honest opinion. And even if their opinion doesn't matter, they'll help you work towards a solution. And what better thing would you want, really? Another thing, guys, is to love yourself. We cannot give what we do not have. You're out here preaching to everyone, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh my God, I love you so much. Do you love yourself? Do you even like yourself? So please get on a journey and get into a space where you're constantly loving on yourself. Be gracious to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. Imagine, look at what God made. He did a good job. God doesn't make mistakes. However, your eyes look, your ears, your neck, your hair, your everything, you're awesome. You are wonderfully, fearfully, and perfectly created in God's image. And I mean, if you're fine like that, you can just imagine what your maker looks like. And your maker doesn't make mistakes. The other thing is to make healing a priority. I know we want to drink. I know we want sherehe. We want to hang out with our friends. We want to show up in our families. We want to be the big boys when we are doing things in the corporate space and just scaling our careers in heights that we never imagined. But imagine it all comes down to you healing and being the best version of of yourself. Wow, yourself. The being the best version of yourself. So that when you show up in the different capacities and roles that you're given, you're showing up and acting, you're just performing at optimum because you personally, your own cup has been filled. Another thing we need to learn, hey guys, is just to communicate. Not this one. You will be surprised that a lot of our kids communicate better than we adults communicate. And one thing I want to challenge you to do, even as you go on through the week or whatever time it is that you're listening to this podcast, is to learn to voice your just learn to be able to voice whatever it is that's going on with you, whether it's something that's in your head, it's something that you're scared of, it's something that you're feeling, it's something that you're unsure of. 100% of the times, so much conflict and so much misunderstanding would be resolved if we could just learn to voice our thoughts and just learn to voice whatever it is that we're struggling with. Do learn to not want to create room for assumptions, because when we are quiet, when we don't communicate effectively, we really give room for so many. It's something we like to call in my mother tongue koso koso, a lot of unnecessary, and also a lot of unnecessary conflict. So please, if you do nothing for yourself today, learn yourself and then learn to communicate. The last thing I'm going to talk about, guys, is to use stress management strategies or tools that we can get. The internet is such a resourceful place. The church, the Bible, whatever it is that you believe in, is such a great resource to be able to just align you. I think it's very important as we go through life to find something to believe in, because you, as a human being, you're so powerful. You're incredibly powerful. You're capable of way so much above and beyond you could imagine. And so sometimes we need something to be able to believe in something that's higher and greater than ourselves, just to keep us accountable and to keep us humble. And so, whatever it is that you believe in, I hope you get that, and I hope it centers you. And I hope you get tools around you to be able to help you through the tough days, because we are not going to sit here and lie that every day is just ponies and rainbows and we are all just having a good time and enjoying life. Sometimes life can be rough, sometimes life can be tough. But if you have the tools, if you identify the patterns, if you can be able to see, this is giving PMS, this is giving PMDD, I'm just having a bad day, I'm having an off day, I'm feeling emotional, it helps you to be able to apply certain tools to make sure that you're okay and you're not just out here burning bridges because you're having a bad day or you're processing your trauma. As adults, it's our responsibility to heal. That excuse we have of, I had a tough this, I had a tough that, that excuse is dying out. And it's about time we took responsibility for our own mental well-being and our own mental health, and just show up and live the best lives that we can as we heal and as we just try to show up as the best version of ourselves. Lastly, guys, please let's extend grace. I think we can all learn from everything that we've seen today and heard today, that we are all fighting a secret battle. It could be with ourselves, it could be with our past demons, it could be with demons that we are currently facing. But we can all make life and the world generally a better place when we learn to be more empathetic and more compassionate and to extend grace to each other. Feel free to reach out to me on tewanzu@gmail.com. Feel free to find me on Instagram, shoot me a DM. I am sending you so much love and hugs. And if you're listening to this at a time when you're just like you don't know where to go from here, I just want to encourage you and tell you that a single step towards the right direction is always progress. Are you listening to this? Find help. Reach out if you must. Reach out to a friend. You can reach out to me. Let's talk. Let's find a way out. Let's heal from our trauma. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to the people around you, you owe it to the people who love you. Live your life showing up as the best version of yourself, trying to heal, to do better, and to be better. Sending you love and hugs. I will see you on the next one. Bye bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode and being part of my journey. I would love to hear from you. Find me on Instagram at Yvette Wanzuu. Find me on Gmail at tewanzuu@gmail.com. Feel free to write to me so that we can interact and get to know each other a little bit better. Thank you so much for being part of my journey and for walking with me and doing this thing called life with me. See, we just do life together. Ama, have a good one. Sending you love and light, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.